Okay, so welcome everybody to our, I don't even know what number we're up to in this this series of training calls with Marnie, who's the OPH trainer. I'm Irene Skricky, and I'll just be kind of trying to keep things moving, trying to deal with the PowerPoint and technical issues, but we'll see. We'll see if this is our first time doing a PowerPoint, so wish us luck here. We do actually have it on the screen, so that's promising. So Marty will run through a little bit of content. This is our second one on stranger danger, since we had a lot of people last time and wanted to talk more about this. And then of course we'll take questions and answers in the chat and otherwise. So Marty, do you want to go and tell me when you want me to advance the slide? I guess now would be a good time to advance the slide, perhaps.
Yes. Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Irene. You're always so awesome. If anybody wants to load up a question, if they have a burning question, I'd like to fold it in. This is really to help. Go ahead.
Going backwards. Here we go. Sorry. I figured out how to go forwards. Now I figured out how to go backwards. Okay, here we go.
Okay. Yeah, so if anyone wants to load up any questions in the chat, or if you have a burning question, just say burning question. We can come to you and have you speak to us. But really, this is for you. So if you've bothered to turn up today, then we're really here to help you. So questions, I'm always going to be more interested in your questions. And we tried to put together something that shows some good body language with stranger danger. It actually shows how some dogs can be quite reactive, and they may even bite in the wrong situations, whereas if the handler sees things, there'll be no chance of a bite, because we'll be setting the dog up for success. And I have some examples of dogs that have bitten. I get dogs in that bite all the time, but really, do they want to bite, or are they put in a terrible situation and they don't understand how to de-escalate the human without using teeth? Remember, dogs don't have a voice, they don't have hands. They've got bark, they've got body language. And if those things are ignored, sometimes they feel all that's left is the bite. And what I do with a dog is I increase their emotional fitness and teach them that their teeth are an absolute last resort, just by giving them other tools, just by folding in tons of tolerance and tons of other tools, and then presenting them with the situation, often with a muzzle on, and going, do you remember what we learned? This should be a fun game now, because you can win the whole roast chicken for this one. When someone comes at you like a zombie and tries to touch you, some dogs are just like, what the hell? Bah! Let me just muzzle punch you out of here. And unfortunately, that can break skin and cause a little damage, or scare people. And some dogs really, they look ferocious, but they're just nip striking. It's not a nip, it is a bite, but they are, they're prepared to back up. They don't want to back up. So, this is all about how to set the dog up so they don't feel like they absolutely have to. And you just fold in more tolerance by reading them and allowing them to make choices. So here we have what is stranger danger, the reasons behind behavior, and other talking points to cover. Then we have nature versus nurture. So the reasons behind the behavior, as I was saying, are usually that we've set the dog up without enough education on human interaction and how to back up humans, and how to communicate to their human, to you, to the handler, that they're not comfortable. And it's often us ignoring one thing, then another thing, then another thing, then another thing, right? And it's like this scale, and here's the bite. Usually a dog's last resort is a bite. And if it's a level 3, 4, 5 bite, well, as a rescue, I'm sorry, we just can't. We really can't. But once we have a known dog that's just reactive, sensitive, trapped, been mishandled, not been taught, no, there's tons of stuff we can do, because almost any dog in the wrong situation will bite. And a lot of this, people just need to know how to handle dogs, and it's really not the dog's fault. So a lot of this, I'll just take the dog and go, but we've got to be very responsible on the dogs we hand out to people, because people just aren't equipped for this stuff. But at the same time, if you're going to get a dog, you have to get a certain amount of education, or any dog will fail with you, because you just don't know. And they're animals, and they have teeth. So we try to be as fair as possible to humans and animals in any training that we do. Now we have nature versus nurture. So the nature part is the fact they are animals and they did come from wildlife. We've domesticated them over the years, but back an animal hard enough, ignore them. Really, it's about nurturing them versus just like nature is just the environment they're in. The knowledge they have is the behavior they express. So they can't express what they don't know. All they can express is what their DNA tells them. And a lot of this, as I've talked about before, a lot of this 50% minimum of a dog that you get, it's the DNA they're wired to do. And somewhere that DNA was deliberately bred for a lot of these until backyard breeding became such a thing. And it's an awful thing. Really think about where you get your puppies from. Really think about it. And in rescue, the great thing is people get to know them and sort of see what type's going to fit for you. Sometimes, you know, wherever that's possible, that's what they're doing and trying to find out what's a fit. But with DNA, it's been bred to be useful to somebody, right? So there's somebody out there that wants, you know, a small dog that's got tons of energy that can go for 20 hours straight, you know, straight down a rabbit hole, and you can grab them back out and they don't care. And if they get bit, if they get tore up, they love it. We're talking about terriers. There's various size terriers, but you know, these dogs are bred to go like every batteries. And then you've got what you do with nurturing. You train them from a young age to have tolerance, to read humans, to communicate, to not use their teeth, and to back up when they're flooded, and to ask the handler to get them out. Sometimes they just have to tolerate it. And sometimes a dog can't be successful if they can't tolerate some of the just normal life things, because life is life. So we look at a lot of variables. We can go to the next slide, Irene. Let's see what's waiting for us. So here we have a dog that I actually got to work on for OPH. So many times I get emails and videos, and we do this Zoom call together every other week. So I get to hear from you all, and I get to see your dogs on file, but I don't get to meet many of them. And I took little Kobe in and I kept him because he's got quite a little complex thing going on in his brain. He got overly flooded and he had stranger danger to the extreme, but he's a perfectly fine dog for a more rural environment. And for somebody who knows what they're doing, he's fine for me. But to hand him to a stranger, I just, no. But here we have a dog that looks like a golden retriever. Everybody wants to touch him. He comes right up to you. His name is Bounty, and I went to go evaluate him because he had a couple nips. They were called nips. They're really level 1 bites where the dog's like feels forced to use his teeth to back you up, but he's not biting twice, not biting so deep that there's any stitches. He's holding back, but he's saying, I freaking mean it. I'm a guard dog. So let's look at what else we might see. Does anybody see in that first picture a body language indicator of whether that dog is confident, anxious, sensitive? Does anybody have any feelings about this dog based on any of these pictures so far? Yeah, beautiful, Jim. Beautiful, Teresa. It's the ears, right? So everyone's reading the ears. That's really good. Do you notice the tail position? Everybody got the ears. Thank you, everybody. Kim, ears back. Yeah, those ears back. And also, just did you notice there's like a puppyish set of his head? It's an immature look. It's not just anxious. The ears are back, and I love that everybody said ears back instead of saying anxious. We're not being subjective, we're being objective, because ears back mean usually startled. They don't always mean anxious. They can mean startled. They can mean just scanning. They're really scanning with their nose. There's so many expressions that tied into different body parts. So his ears back, he is in his nose here. He's highly in his nose. And he's using what we actually, it's not anxiousness, it's appeasement. He's using a very babyish communication. It's appeasement. Like, I don't want to be any trouble. I don't want to be any threat. There's no whites of his eyes showing, or that would be a way more anxious thing. If there's whites of the eyes, it's called whale eye. And it means anxious. Here in the second one, there's some strange men up ahead, and I don't know about you, but this, to me, a dog that's got stranger dangers, real problem, that's a pretty, I hope everyone else would agree with me, even though the handler has a fairly tight leash, he looks relaxed, neutral, his tail's down, his ears aren't stiff, they're, they're in that, they're up, they're receiving information, but they're not totally erect and rigid. But that leash is a bit tight. If somebody's at that distance and you've got a dog that's just showing that much interest and alertness, what you would do here, here's a practical tip for you right now, is step back, turn your body language slightly away, 45 degrees away, communicate. If you want to come away from this, let me support you. The biggest problem with stranger danger and fairy activity is dogs don't feel supported. They feel like humans are passive or tense. We tighten up and we go stiff and we watch, or we just hold our breath, or we just watch like we've paid to watch a show and we're just not engaging at all. We're not offering any guidance. We just stand there and look. And a lot of dogs that are having this problem, a lot of dogs I see are just not handled well. And so they learn, I'm on my own on this rope and someone's got hold of me neck. It's not the best. This is not a good situation. Look at that leash. Not to throw anyone under the bus ever for leash handling, but it's right on their windpipe and it's on their esophagus, and you hear dogs going all the time because they can't focus with all that going on. And if they want to go forward and they've got forward thoughts and someone's pulling them back, that builds tension. So the next one, that's just another tail position to look at. You're always looking at the tail. Wagging tail doesn't mean friendly. It means energy. It is often an indicator of friendliness, but it would be low and waggy with a loose waggy body and soft eyes and floppy ears. It wouldn't be like fast waggy with high energy. So if you see fast wagging and the rest of the dog is alert, that's energy. That's not always friendliness. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Ears back there are friendlier when they're back. Oh, okay. So this is my first evaluation of the dog. Thanks. Let's go ahead and watch that. And then while we do that, I'm gonna go load up because is the next video link on this one, Irene? There was two video links.
All right, this is the moment of truth when we see if this works.
Okay.
And it's a little slow getting through to you, but it is coming up. Try hitting enter. It's not sure it wants to play.
Okay, it's not sure it wants to play. That's a bummer. All right, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna type this in here as a link that we can watch after. That's the after. I think this before was can I share something? No. I may be able. Are you able to click on? Can you click on that link and when you're sharing your screen, can you click on that link I put in chat and share it with us? Or no? That's the after, not the before. The one on this one is a before where he's.
Irene, can you share a different screen to put that in your browser and see if it will share that way?
Thanks, Laurie.
So this is the one thing we did not get a chance to rehearse all of these things. To do that, though, I have to
bear with us, everyone. Here. We're trying to make this a better experience for everybody, and it's just got, it's just new. We have to do it in the moment. So if you bear with us, and if you like this format, where we read according to some slides, then we can get better at it. And we just thought maybe it will be more organized for people.
So it is not liking what I'm doing here. Let me try. I'm going to stop the share for a minute. and go back to sharing now that I'm on. Oh, look, I can pick my screen. Let's see if I have it in here.
Hi, Kim.
Hello.
Well, here we go. I'm getting excited. We can see you.
Yeah, but doing this before, it won't play.
Really?
I don't know why. Yeah,
That is
it
bumming.
won't just play on my computer. I'm sorry. Let's we may want to carry on without the video, Marnie. Each time we add a new element. This time we added a PowerPoint.
We tried it.
And that's exciting.
Oh, that was a shame. That was a shame because I had 3 video really all sort of tied into one. What we did have is we had Bounty in the beginning. When he first saw me, I was in a small room. He was being brought out of a noisy kennel on leash. I was sitting down and Lauren was in front of me. She was standing up, small and more neutral. I was sitting up and he came up, he sniffed us, but he came rushing up to us, sniffed us both, rushing up. And then he came right up to me, right in my bubble. And I looked at him in the eyes and because I guessed, I was like, I bet this dog just doesn't like being challenged because he's so sure of himself, but he's not sure of himself. You know, that conflicted energy a lot of dogs have. Just nervous. They're nervous. They're not confident, but his DNA is guard dog. Even though he looks like a golden retriever, his DNA is actually guard dog. I'm not going to mess around guessing breeds, but if we do a DNA test, we will find the guard dog in there. It will be there. I promise you that. And phenotypically he's golden retriever, so people think, you know, oh, because he's coming up all friendly, and he's coming up, you know, because he hasn't learned how to check people out before he decides. What he's learned to do is sniff them. How many of you, you know, just raise your hand or think about it, how many of you know dogs that just go up to sniff a person before they decide whether they're okay or not? We gotta help dogs not do this. They got to do it more from a distance, or a little bit of sniffing as the person's moving and come away. It's got to be very supervised and guided. So when he sniffed me and I looked at him in the eyes, he went whoa, 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 and came towards me. And I was like, nah, that sounds like noise to me. And I just made that judgment call of a few years of experience. Like, if he's going to bite me, he's going to bite me. But he was just telling me, he's like, I don't feel good now. I feel challenged and I don't know what to do except tap into my DNA as a guard dog and push you back. Well, I'm sitting on a chair against the wall, but he didn't bite me. And I could hear it in the wolf I could see it in his body language. And I am a professional. I was able to go, that dog really is just talk because he's not being guided by his handlers. And I can tell that's happened his whole life. So after I evaluated him a bit more, just watching, I just did a couple things to give him some clues. And the second video I had was some kids in real life. The first time I took him out, because I took him out to my home, I worked with him a little bit. Oh, here we go. I took him out in the first evaluation session and I gave him some clues, and then I asked him to make some choices, and he made very safe choices within 1 hour. He just didn't know. So all he had left was his DNA, which is stranger danger. Like a lot of guard dogs, you can't just come up to them, and they can't just, you know, but he shouldn't be going up to people and going, oh, now I don't feel good. Now what do I do? Now I got to back. No. So he gets a chance. To learn. No. You can go up to people. You better be friendly. If you don't like what you smell, you leave or you communicate to your handler. You don't take it upon yourself. And dogs learn to do that. Dogs, how would we take a German Shepherd out into the airport to look for drugs? You know, they absolutely learn who to instigate and who to not instigate, and when you use their judgment. They just need some guidance, right? So that's a gift for me to be able to get to do that. But in the next video, I was going to show you, and I did click the link, so you'll be able to watch that in the chat. If you click the link, I think at 9, it says here 9:25, we see the start of kids running towards us, pressure happening from people very quickly. Some teenagers, some young kids, people started walking past really fast. a dog who hasn't had this education, and they start running hard. I mean, I don't know if you saw, but they come like flying, and they come running straight towards me. And I'd already talked in the video, like, what would I do if people suddenly turned up? Because there was no one around, you know, it was like open, it was right by my house. I never leave with a new dog until I really know them very well. And I just had to put my hand out, and I was like, stop, you shall not pass. Because they were just coming straight at him, running. They'd never met me or the dog, and they were just running at him. And he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything wrong until I said, stop, you will get bit. But he kept turning around, and he checked in with me, and he was like, and then he went towards them and went woof woof. And it was like so little. It was, considering what they were doing, many dogs would be on the end of the leash lunging hard, because sometimes dogs will really warn people. So anybody here got a stranger danger dog and have a question at this point about stranger danger? Since we can't show you all these lovely things, I would love to show you the body language and when to adjust your body language and how to help the dog. But if anyone's got a question, we'll apply it to you. Let's do that here.
Anyone want to ask a question in the chat, or we're a small enough group you can even speak up?
Okay, so
I
go ahead.
was just going to say, so we have
Please.
a dog that sounds very similar to the dog that you were training. So exactly what, like, how do we approach it, or what do we do when we're out and about? Like for my little guy, if somebody comes in the house, he automatically starts in with the barking and the, like, he's, like you said, he's not going to bite them. He's just afraid.
Yes. What we tend to do wrong in that situation, who's talking here? What was your name?
Jill.
Jill. Hey, Jill.
Hi.
I can't see everything on the screen. What we tend to do is be too passive, and they take over. So that's why if you watch the video in that I did link, it does talk about it, how to set him up. What I did was I led him back and forth, away, over and over again without anyone around. I taught him right in that first session. It was the first time I picked up the leash with the dog, really. And I taught him to follow me back and forth and start watching for my communication of when to leave. Because what they're not doing in that situation is they get flooded, but they haven't learned to check in with us at every stage before they're flooded, and bail and leave and follow our suggestions and get rewarded with safety, distance, food, massive payout when they leave. So they really just need to learn to alert and leave. Okay, so they need to learn to turn around, come away, but they shouldn't do it while they're flooded. You really need to start work on the game without anyone putting pressure on, and then you get somebody to do a setup. So then you use distance, so they're not too close. And you have them jump out, and you go, yeah, we can, somebody jumped out at us, a threat, let's go get the chicken, come on. And you make it a game. It's really about making games where dogs can win, and turning all that alert and communication into a fun way for them to predict that you're going to set them up for success, right? Because then the dog expects to come away from a person, and you can make the setups more challenging. As long as you're safe, you make the setup so that, oh, we're challenging you. Someone's jumping in the room with a balaclava on at a distance and not too much energy for the level the dog's at. And you're on a nice loose leash and you're all calm, and the dog goes woof, 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 woof. And you just wait for that pause, or for them to look at you. And if they give you that, I'll tell you what to do if they don't. If they give you that, you just wait for that check-in, which this dog in the video did. He really did check in. So I backed up a step to reward him by, no, we're not confronting. I've got it. You can tell the person, you can show the dog, hey, I've got it. Watch this. You look at me and you put your hand out and you go, stop, back up, please. I'm training my dog, back up. And you protect the dog, and then you bail and you back the dog up, and you massively reward them. The answer is always break it down to bite-sized chunks where they can win, and reward them massively for setups that you just do occasionally, and you make it really fun, really safe. You don't need as many as you think. You just need a few good ones, just a few good setups. And if they're not looking at you, if they're not waiting, they're just woof, 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 you back up. You say, hey, all done, finish. And then you turn and you bail. You make them back up, you make them leave. You go, so sorry, I put you in a situation where you couldn't come away. You know, like it's our fault if they're flooded. We need to put them in a situation they can win more often. So the other thing I'll do is, if it's in a home and the dog's backed in a corner and can't go anymore, I'll go, okay, thanks for your opinion, and I'll put you away with a pacifier. I'll put you away with a big frozen bone. I'll put you in another room. We don't need you tonight. Like, they earn time with us. They earn time out with us. When someone comes, I usually treat it as Kobe, my little Kobe dog. When Bounty was delivered by one of our volunteers and fosters and volunteer here, she does amazing work. She came all the way to deliver him. I went, oh, can I use you as bait for this other little dog? Because she wasn't phased. She wasn't worried. She's more worried about the huge Rottweiler. I was like, don't worry about the huge Rottweilers running around. They're wild, but they're new. There's a new one, but they're not the ones you worry about. Worry about this little lab mix right here, this little Sharky lab mix. And she's like, oh, he looks so sweet. And I'm like, stop it. He did look sweet because he was like, he trusted me. I was handling the situation. But he's one that if he feels pressure, he'll lunge. He'll go into pressure. Oh my gosh, Laurie, did you find it?
Yeah, we're trying plan 2, which is Laurie may be able to share in a way that I have not been able to share. So
Okay.
Do you want me to try playing? Just tell me where you want me to go.
Does anyone not want to see it? Is anyone would rather stick to the questions, or does anyone want to see it? Do we have?
I absolutely want to see this.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So do you want me to skip ahead, or do you want me to start right here?
Go ahead and skip ahead, but mute it, and I'll talk through it.
Okay, so you want me to go to 9:40? I can't remember where we were going to go.
It was 9:25 was the
9:25. Okay.
skip there for right now. Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully you guys can hear it.
And if not, you can click the link and watch it yourselves. It is in the chat.
Unfortunately, I live in the country, so I have very slow internet.
Oh, you do. Oh dear. Here we go. This is my first session with him. Very first session. And this is a dog that we can't just hand out and place because humans have failed him and he has not got the necessary knowledge of how to be completely perfectly appropriate. So did you see? Oh, it's hard to see it.
Could you hear it though?
But this is yeah, I heard a little of it.
I love how you take charge, Marnie, there. Here, I'll back it up again.
That's what I wanted people to see, is you really have to take charge of protecting your dog and let your dog see you've got it. That's what I wanted to say to Jill was, let your dog see you've got it, and you make people stop. You get them safety and distance. You make people back up or leave, come forward, sit down. You take over so they don't have to. See how his tail's up and wagging. Wagging doesn't mean friendly. His ears are not in a friendly position. But he was not reacting ridiculously, was he? That dog, and he is a guard dog. That dog has had territorial access to the yard to guard a yard. That was his job for his life, was to guard the family. And he is a perfectly lovely chap. When you set him up, I will not have people come within 6 feet of him yet. And when they do, it'll be because he's looking for an opportunity to win safety and resources, and he's looking for an opportunity to work, and people are going to try and stick their hands on him, and he's going to signal to me, get me out of here, people are being rude, or he's going to tell them to back up, and then he's going to look to me and he's going to get rewarded for it. And we'll do anything where there's any risk at all. We'll do a muzzle, and he'll love the muzzle. We will get him to love the muzzle. So use muzzles, use muzzles. But if you're flooding the dog, don't use a muzzle. Use distance and safety. Don't flood the dog. A muzzle is for a setup for them to win. See how loose my leash is? That's the other thing that's major. I can't do what I do on a tight leash. You just can't. I'm sorry. I don't expect people to use a long line. It took me years. I've mastered my craft, and it took me years to really master a long line. I don't mind fumbling around and being embarrassed and it getting tangled up or something, like if I'm not paying attention. But I've had years and years and years of not letting dogs get strung up on it and not letting them run out into the road or run up to people. So but a loose leash, 2 leashes tied together, or give yourself the space that works for the environment you're in, but give as much space as you possibly can to the dog to make choices. And the other thing for everybody here that's massively important with this dog is, notice I'm just going back and forth. I go up and down outside my house. I will not go on a walk because I can't control people. If people are really flooding us, we can go in the house. And I can say, oh, we survived. But I had his back the whole time. And now this dog thinks a lot more of me because I really had his back. And I know this internet is kind of crappy, so it's hard to see. But I let him make choices, and I turn my back and suggest that we're going to leave. I pay him with food when he comes away. And when people come, I don't tighten up. I stand on the leash and take away any excess so that he still feels he's free to make choices. And I'm prepared to back up and bail and say, oh, I don't like your choices, and turn my back on him and exit. I want him to learn that people running at us means he should find a safe place to put his mouth and trust me that I've got it. But he's welcome to defend me. If someone just comes at me and starts clobbering on me, he's welcome to defend me. But until then, nope, his job is to be tolerant. And he has to be taught that. Dogs aren't taught how to feel safe and feel tolerant. They're just not taught emotional fitness. And it's something I live to teach. I don't care about obedience too much, but I really care about emotional fitness. It's a very silly video, but yeah, you can stop it, Laurie. It's too stuttery. We're not really getting the gist. Sorry, everybody. We tried. There was a question here in the chat. What was that? Okay.
Yep. I was just
my dog will start barking, and hairs will rise upon his back if he smells dog scents on the ground. Okay, piloerection. That's caused when the hairs raise up on the back of the neck and along the spine. That's called piloerection. Even though he knows a dog lives there, he passes a house, even though no dogs are in sight. I've tried distractingly holding the leash loose. Good. High value treats. We walk at non-busy times, and sometimes we have to go turn around and go home. If he sees a dog he doesn't know, he barks and lunges sometimes. Any tips? Yeah, he's working for some trauma here. Hello, Pam. Hi, I love seeing faces. He's working through some trauma here. So what we need to do, okay, so let's apply what I've said so far. What I've said so far, the answer is to everything usually is break it down into chunks and setups, make it so that they can win. And what is it what is their behavior? Always remember, behavior meets a need, right? So he's communicating, he's constantly uneasy, he's constantly uncomfortable with this. Dogs, because it's probably on leash, it might even not be off leash. Some dogs are great off leash and not so great on leash because of threat, and like they're tight, it's a tight space, and or they could be guarding the person, whereas when it's all chill and relaxed, they don't. There's so many variables of dogs. Dogs are very contextual. So what I would do is I would take the dog out with everything he wants the most in that moment. Like I would wait past dinner time with no dinner yet. I'd be like a little bit late with dinner. I'd make sure he was really ready to play some tug, or I've got something that he really wants. And I would use like sardines or liver pate or a warm burger for the first time. And I'd take him out, just to the first point where he starts doing that behavior, just the very first point, and I would start giving a novel cue, like I would say pineapple, I would say pineapple, pineapple, just like pineapple, pineapple. I'm not telling him anything. I would just come up with a word and I'd say pineapple, pineapple, because you're giving me the pineapple alert. You're smelling dogs. You don't feel comfortable. The chemicals are touching your body. Here's what's going to happen when I see a pineapple moment. I would bring him away. I would say, pineapple, pineapple. I would turn around and bring him away 20 feet back towards the house, 50 feet back towards the house. And I would sit down, I'd breathe, I'd massage him. And then I'd say, good pineapple. And I'd feed him the liverwurst or feed him the steak or whatever it was, really high value the first few times. I know it's a pain in the butt, but duck, I will go nuts. I'll find something really incredible. Sardines, something, even a pot of baby food for some dogs is absolutely off the charts. It just depends on the dog. So your high value treats might not be his high value treats. So we have to really think outside the box. What does the dog, or it could be tug they want to work for, or ball, or just sit down and have a massage and sniff and start digging the earth and picking up the leaves. I think what he needs is stress relief. And if you teach him that it gets to a certain point, there'll be a stress relief 5-10 minutes where we'll just run away, where there's no chance of his threat, his trigger. What happens if you keep going is trigger stacking happens, and it just stacks on top of another and then another and then another, and at some point Jenga. So we got to learn where to take breaks for dogs and teach them that we can see their cues. Half of the stranger danger problem is that we don't read dogs' body language and cues. So I really wanted, sorry for the fail on technology. We tried. I really wanted to teach some body language and show what I do. But if you can click that link and go watch it, there is the other link as well with the first part, but that's not as important as just looking at what I do, because you'll see at 9:25, you'll see kids could get bit, if they just come, if anybody comes running up to a dog they don't know and sticks, and I mean running, and I'm not talking walking. I show that to any court of law, they're going to go, that person just got themselves bit by a dog. There's nothing that dog did wrong, nothing. That dog wasn't doing anything wrong, and people could just shove their hands, and that's not the dog's fault. You've got to protect your dog sometimes from people, which means back off, let them see that you're protecting them. Shetland sheepdogs are a bit nuts, Kim. They're they're amazing dogs. Oh my God. I used to teach a lot of agility, and we had a lot of these little chippers in Colorado. So I'm really familiar with them. Depends which flavor you got. Some of them are high string, super sensitive. Some of them are just balls to the wall in your face.
Yeah, ours are
what you got?
That like anxiety kind of seems to be like built into their psyche.
Yes, it does.
And
so high strung.
Yes, very high strung. The neighbor can pass by. He's over 2 years old now, and it's like every time the neighbor drives by the house, it's the first time ever.
Okay.
And it's
you're
constant.
Behind the curve. His needs haven't. Now, this doesn't mean, you may have a real struggle here, because it means he's looking for jobs. He's looking for more jobs, and he's taking them, and he's going, I want more things to do. I've got a cat here who's trying to climb on this computer.
They're herders, right? So they try to herd us, and we kind of shut that down when they try to herd us. The little nip at the heel every once in a while.
Yes.
Once in a while. But given
once in a while. That's it. All the time, says Dad.
Yeah. So, and they do it in the house, right? Like I have to let them know.
Oh my God.
It's okay. You don't need to make sure we're all together in the house. So you have to establish, right, that we're in charge.
Yes, that's it. That's it. It's a job. It's two things. It's a job. If you get one of those hard balls or a couple of hard balls, and what you're going to do is first of all, you put the leash on and you just do some just dead simple stuff. Like I said, I'm not huge on obedience, but any of it helps. Like just no pressure. Like it's not pressure. It's just I'm in charge. I'm coming up with the plan. In charge doesn't mean like a tyrant. It just means I've got the plan and I'm going to execute the plan and I'm going to make it pleasant and safe and fun for everybody else. But this is the plan. We're all doing this plan. And the plan is I put the leash on and I'm going to walk you back and forth and I'm going to go to place and I might do some sits and some downs just as far as his knowledge is allowed. And you can look on YouTube, Kiko Pup. Anything she does for obedience occupies their brains. It doesn't need to be pressure. You can be more assertive than that and be fine. But I like to be as gentle as possible because a lot of these problems
Guys,
like
I don't eat
you need
vegan.
to save the discipline.
Guys, I don't eat vegan, but Springly is.
But
That was
what?
interesting. I think that was
Okay.
some kind of recording. I was just
Okay.
carry.
Okay, so but you need to put the leash on, you need to get control, and then reward the end of the session of being in control, being in charge, of like walking away. Instead of saying no, you need to teach them yes, what to do, and then get these balls out and be like, now herd the balls and move the balls around, have a crazy 5 minutes. But the going on leash and doing some obedience drills in the home, and I would use anything by Kiko Pup. You're just training them. You're not like, the leash makes you in charge and you're focused on a task and you're not really up for like you've got a focused task. But then you release the hounds and you get these balls and you move these balls around and get them to join in and move these balls around. It's called tri-ball, and you can make it indoor tri-ball. And you just give them a job as a reward for working with you. And they need to start working with you to get the rewards. Right now, you're running around going, no, don't do that. Stop that. Come away. They're working you. And they're bred to work for us. And we're missing the opportunity to have them work for us. And if you get some video of that and send it in, I would love to do a whole session where we just play. Once we figure this video thing out, if we could play people's videos, I'll try it myself. If we could play people's videos and I could walk through what to do, then that would help people, because it's really just a case of get some obedience, some listening, some cooperation, get some manners in there, or if they're not listening, then they go away into another room for 20 minutes and then you try again later. And I just keep doing that. Time with me is earned. I don't just hand it out because I can't afford to. I have to make these dogs to save their lives, to make their lives better. I have to use affection and my time to pay calmness, to pay cooperation. Like with Bounty right now, he's just waiting his turn to get another session, and then I make the session like in that video. If you watch it, if you think about that's his only session that day on leash, he's really looking forward to me putting him on leash, and then he's trusting me more to put him in situations, and then he's not worried about people. I've got it. Like he's just watching me like dominate people, and he's not having to really join in much. His reactivity just goes boom 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 boom. He's not actually that reactive. He's very, very forward, and he didn't have the tools and the knowledge. And we'll see if he can truly make real change, because behavior modification is actually about permanently changing the dog, not micromanaging them for the rest of their lives. It's about permanent change. So we'll see. We'll see. We've got a great team here. We get to be able to try and help dogs for reals and people. Anybody else got a question? Because there was some questions on that final slide, I think, Irene. I'd really like to read those,
actually,
'cause Shamila
I was just going to put it back up.
Okay.
It's actually more homework here. Homework and key takeaways was the final slide. Let me just put it into presentation mode. Looks bigger. And this is a nice summing up of the things you've been talking about throughout this call.
Yes, practice retreating when you see your dog is uncomfortable to validate their feelings. Reference body language discussed earlier. So Shamila did an amazing job, and I think Lauren worked on this too. So Yes, if you see your dog's uncomfortable, if you first see the signs, instead of stopping or telling them what to do, say, okay, good dog. And you can say pineapple or whatever, but it means you're going to bail. It means let's go, finish. You're just telling them, and then you've got to turn your body language and reject what the dog's doing. At that point, if you don't actually take over and lead, if you're just looking at and asking them or waiting, you're still surrendering polite, because the body language they'll be using at this point is they'll be alert, they'll be looking forward, they may be barking and straining. Hopefully we're before that point, we're below threshold, it's called. We really want to stay under threshold to change a dog's mind. Once a dog's freaking out, you can't do much except put them away. That's it, finish, you're done, buddy. Emotion, it's like a toddler with a tantrum. Really think of it more like that. You got to just cut it off, cut your losses, bail, put them away. And if you can't do that, you're in an environment where perhaps you should question if you should be there, seriously, because I do a lot of working out of my starting environment and back and forth, so that by the time I'm hiking, we've had so much trust built, and they know that I will get them out of there, and they know I will take charge, and they can trust me. This is just one of the elements. I do have like 20 things I use, but this is the biggest one, I think. Do not push your dog into a situation if they're showing signs of being uncomfortable. Just don't push. People push because we're just hoping it'll be all right, and we just don't know better, and that's when bad things happen. Every time they choose to not react, however, when they ignore a stimulus, thanks. I'm glad this slide was here. This is the biggest thing missed. People miss their eyes of yes. We all have eyes of no. No, don't do that. No, don't do that. But where are the eyes of yes? How does the dog win? They need to be taught what they do right. If we're just focusing on what they do wrong, we miss so much of the iceberg under the water, and we're only addressing the tip above the top. So if they turn their head or signal or check in or just don't overreact, we back up and praise the crap out of them, really let them know, and then we might just back up a bit and go chill and sniff. Anything you can do to get your dog to sniff will relax them. Anything you can get your dog to chew will stop the stress building up so much. So dogs should probably chew up to 3 hours a day if they're stressed, like those little Shetlands. They should have a job but first they have to be obedient, go on their bed, lay down, heel, walk, and then they get a job herding bulls, going crazy, frisbee nuts, and then all done, finish, we stop. We just go quietly about the house, and people come and we feed and we're calm, and then people leave and we go crazy and we do all these fun things. I make these fun things happen that I'm in control of, so that the other things that happen are really boring, and dogs are like, well, these people came, but it's not the tribal game, or the tug game. Okay, advocate for your dog to strengthen relationship and your communication. Always make it relationship first, not task orientated. How are you building your relationship with your dog so that there's more trust? It really comes down to trust. If your dog can trust you in every situation, this is exactly how we take Malinois, the most bitey dog on earth, and we take them around the public, and people don't just get bit very often, and these dogs live to bite. They just live for it. But we make it their job. We make it fun. We make it, we put it on cue. We have stimuli and we have cues. More games. Yeah, more games is the flirt poles. If you get a stick and put a toy on it and you're flapping it around, but first we're walking around the house nicely, and then we go freedom. And then we play like crazy, and then we go back to being boring. And their job is to be boring until you're crazy and play, or until you give the signal that they can be crazy and play. But dogs playing indoors should be really, like, when I sit down, all my dogs sit down. Except for the brand new ones in learning, but sometimes I've got other dogs teaching that dog that they should be calming down. They should have a toy. They should have a chew. No dog is ever just required to just sit there bored without something to do. If they want something to do, it's a chew. And when I sit down, 10 dogs will just sit down on the floor and chill, because it means we're not playing anymore. And then I'll give the cue because I'm rewarding the calm. Does that make sense? There was another slide, I think, with questions.
I think it just says questions. Actually, there were a few questions submitted ahead of time, Marnie.
Yes.
A
okay.
couple of them, I think we actually, well, Kim was on the call, so I think we may have touched on.
Thanks, Kim. I love
on
that
your
you came on the
question,
call.
Kim.
Did you send your video,
about,
Kim?
I'm sorry, you talking to Kim Cash?
No,
yeah, did
sorry.
you send me a video?
No,
yet? No, there was another Kim.
I think
Sorry.
there's another one.
Great.
Too many Kims.
Yeah, there's another Kim who was on
too
earlier.
many Kims for me in one call. Just
Still
in one
is.
call.
Yeah.
I'm like, which
I guess we can't do video.
I thought I
so.
saw.
Did
Okay.
you get the question?
here's the
Did you get the
question.
questions, Marnie? Or Irene,
Got
did
the
you get the questions?
questions.
I copied him and emailed them.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
what I'm
I've got
looking
them
at
right here.
now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so Kim Ray's asked a question. She was on earlier, though. I think we may have touched on hers about her dog aggressively barking at cyclists, joggers, motorcycles. But actually, there's a couple others that you touched on a lot of these themes, but let me share one. It's actually from Sharmila about this dog is a people person, so not stranger danger, kind of the reverse, loves attention from strangers, snuggles, belly rubs. If we have guests at home, he will bark at them to get their attention and want the guests to talk to him, pet him nonstop. He won't stop barking till he gets what he's asking for. It's embarrassing when he's like that.
It's paid.
Though he doesn't like all people, he's especially fond of people who are chubby and tall. Oh, I should show up. I'd get some serious attention from this dog. So what do we do? This is kind of the reverse of stranger danger, Marnie. What do you have any suggestions for that?
It is a version of stranger danger.
The opposite. Reverse stranger danger.
It's the opposite. Yeah, it's a version. He's training them to give him all the attention, everything. Will not stop barking till he gets what he wants for. Okay, so this is where frustration comes in, and dogs get hardwired to express their frustration, and then something happens that alleviates the frustration, and what actually gets reinforced is the barking. And I am one of those people that I love dogs, but barking, it's my worst behavior. I absolutely detest it. And we do get it, of course, but for me, it means it's a major problem. So I would deconstruct everything, and I would do it as kindly as possible, but I'd put him away the first 10 times he barked. And then I'd get him out, and I would have somebody just walk in the door, and right before he barked, I'd be feeding cheese as they walked in the door, and then I'd take the cheese away and say, good, quiet, and I'd run up and have him get cuddles and pets, but I would be controlling the situation. So let's back that up again. First 10 times he barked, it's gonna suck, but or the first 4 times, because I'm a softie and I'd give up, but I'd try him, I'd give him a chance, but I would put him away at least 2 to 4 times. I'd go bark, 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 very gentle, lovingly, put him away with a frozen bone and go, you don't need all that stress, buddy. Don't worry about people coming, because it's chemicals flooding his body, and he's frustrated, and he's expressing it, and he knows it will get alleviated. The barking is what communicates his frustration, and people will fix it for him if he barks more and more and more. So I'd put him away with the bone, and I'd even sit with him, but he wouldn't get guest time. His barking would signal the end of guest time. And meanwhile, I'll be doing a setup where somebody's just quietly coming in while I'm feeding a few pieces of cheese. And I go, good, quiet. And we run up and we get snuggles. And as long as he's quiet and snuggling, the snuggling continues. The minute the barking happens, we carry him away and put him away with a bone, because he can't handle it, the poor little muffin. I would take charge in a way that teaches him it's being passive that he's trying his little best. He's winning because he's getting it rewarded. But I would change antecedent behavior consequences, what I would do there. And you're welcome to call me about that, because I can walk you through that. Okay, there was another one here. And the bit with chubby and tall people, you work towards that. So you start with a couple people, you feed some cheese, and then you go, good silence, good quiet, whatever the word is, it doesn't matter. You just pick a word, good quiet, good silence, good quiet, and we run up and we get the snuggles and pets, and before the barking comes in. It's called superstitious behavior. The dog thinks the barking is what gets the attention. Well, it has been rewarded, but we cut it all out. We mix it up. We make it easier for the dog to win without the barking, and the barking starts signaling the end of the session. Get put away with a frozen bone. Nothing wrong with being put away with a frozen bone, but that's not the same thing the dog's barking for. So that's okay. Barking will mean that he gets put away with something, something amazingly wonderful. Okay, there was more here. What was the next one, Irene?
So Marnie, there were a couple. One was I think the first one. This is curious, and maybe we can end with this just because we're basically at time here. But it's from Erin, who's now on our board. Our dog is much more active to men than women, but she shares a situation where she is better if I'm not with her and the person she's reacting to walks her. I can imagine not being with her, the dog's trying to protect her perhaps, but if the other person that she doesn't like is walking her, she does much better. She stops the barking and lunging. She gave an example of that. Why do you think that is? I'm curious too.
Yeah, often that's so common. The person's sometimes tense or anxious and the dog protects them from themselves. They're like, and then you hand the dog off. Kobe was like that. You hand him off to someone. He's like, oh, I got to behave. I've got no crutches. The dogs use the human as an excuse to show their anxiety, insecurity, or territorial guarding, but they feed off the human, and the human's the crutch. Away from the human, they've got no legs to stand on. They don't feel confident. They've got to start making friends to survive. They're like, I'm neutral. I'm Switzerland because I want to live. I have a good survival instinct, and now I have nobody to enable me. We enable dogs sometimes, and so same thing. That's a more complex one to answer how to fix, because I haven't seen the dog's truest motivator. The dog and the handler have a little dynamic where that dog's used to guarding the person. I would nip that in the bud. I would break that apart. I'd break it down into smaller chunks. I'd do setups. I would record it, and I would find the motivators that meet the dog's needs for safety, and train the handler to have more confidence, and break the dog into chunks, like go to bed, and then people walk by, and then reward for people walking by is the handler goes and gets the dog back. I would break them apart a little bit, put them back together a little bit. But I need to see that and work with that to actually fix that. But the reason is they're enabling each other a little bit.
Marnie, I wonder if a future topic, I mean, one thing I've observed as a foster and the dogs go off is that, and even when they arrive at our houses and then we have them for a week, we see a certain set of behaviors, or they're like this or like this, the adopter. And then over time, one in response to the adopters, whatever, handling or environment, but also as they get more comfortable, I've seen a lot of dogs become, more protective. So at first they're friendly to everybody because and what you said really triggered that. I don't know anybody here. I better be nice. I need a friend. A month later, they're like, yo, this is my home. You get out of here. And so we often adopt out dogs, and then their personalities evolve, and then the adopter calls and says help. And so I would love, and maybe this is for a future call, is protectiveness. We don't all want to be protected. You've mentioned this a number of times, but I don't want my dog to protect me, and I do try to step in, but it doesn't always work. But maybe we could. And it's a different version of stranger danger, but I've had dogs. In fact, Linda, not to call you out if you're still on, but Layla, who was my foster, who we were talking about at the beginning of the call, she would attack any dog who came into our house, including my own. Had to keep them separate. Outside the house, friendly as could be, more or less. She'd play with my dog outside the house. Come into the house, my dog I had to crate and rotate. So I didn't have her long. There's some behaviors like that about how they behave differently in different settings, protectiveness, defensiveness. I wonder if that's, again, for a future call, since we're a little over time now, but I've seen that happen enough times as both a
Yeah.
foster and then seeing the dogs with adopters and all that. Maybe you could give us some ideas
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, there's a lot when a dog just, they see the person being passive, so they take over is a big part of it. They get more, they predict what their human wants, and if their human's tense, they pick up on it, and they use it as an excuse to get more territorial. It means they've got more territorial, they want to guard their property, but off their property or in other hands, they're just fine. They're neutral, but they think it's what their human wants, and humans need to learn how to change their body. It's often the adopter or the foster doesn't know how to exhibit confident handling. So a lot of what I do, I've got some great videos on that. So I could do one on that with a dog I've got that was very clingy with them, but neutrally, you just literally hand him off. Kobe's very similar. Once he was handed over to me, he was like, I don't know anyone here. I'm not gonna get myself in trouble by attacking anything. But with their owner, they're like talking like guys at a bar. They're like, we'll take you on, we'll give you as soon as they're apart, it's like, oh no, I'm fine, there's no problem. So I can show people how to avoid building that up for sure.
All right, we're a few
We can
minutes
avoid that.
over.
Yep.
And
Thank
there was
you,
one other
everybody.
question, but it was very much similar. How do we manage, how do you manage a dog that is kind of reacting to people? So why don't we wind up here?
Thank
and
you.
as always, people can email questions to training@ophrescue.org, and we will continue to have
Thanks, Amy.
these calls, and the library of them is available online. So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Marnie. So we made some progress on PowerPoint. Maybe next time
Thank you,
we will
Irene.
actually get all the way to playing
I
video. We made it
know.
halfway there. So thanks.
I know,
Lori.
we tried.
We're getting closer to being fully logical. But thank you, everybody, and
Thank
we
you,
will see you
everybody.
next time.
See you next time. Bring in the questions. We love the questions.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks.